BlackRock is downgraded and is no longer in a buy zone, according to ESG, because, well, we'll analyze one of the reasons why this is actually happening. So we'll go over some of that. In other news, Boston University creates a new COVID strain that is 80% deadly, allegedly. Weird. It must be right before the midterms, but we'll be talking about that, what that means, and where we go from there. Jill Biden attends and sings the Eagles fight song and is allegedly booed. Now, we'll be listening to video from a couple different angles because, well, some people say that it's edited in, the boos are edited in, and some people are saying that the NFL edited it out. So we'll go over some of that. We'll let you decide for yourself, but honestly, I can't decide. I'm not going to lie. I'm actually on the fence on this one. I can't decide whether this is real or hoax, but we'll go over some of that and where this goes and what this means. And Gavin Newsom is set to relieve the state of emergency in California in 2023. It is going to be all this and more. Welcome back to midterm season. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. So apparently D-Live stayed on last night, even without any signal coming to it. And I mean, you would have got the title card if I'd have kept OBS running. And that was when Arbolt messaged me. That was actually the first thing that I went and checked and see if OBS was still going. And no, that was down, that was done, and I'm sure that we would have had some sort of YouTube violation for going back and listening to Porch Boys almost immediately after we were off of Mass Effect last night. Which, by the way, is still a lot of fun. I'm having a ton of fun with that game. Even though I did get frustrated and kind of rage quit a little bit last night, I'm having some fun. Odd, though, my sprites all disappeared in the mission that we were running last night. Everything was fine in the beginning of it, and then they went into a vehicle scene, and after the vehicle scene, back when it was still people wandering around in a facility, all the sprites disappeared. And nothing I've done thus far seems to fix that. It's weird. I've never seen anything like that happen. You can actually see the outline and everything, but it's all blacked out. There's no... The background is there, and the sprites are silhouettes. So I don't know. I have no idea what's happening with that. But we're not here for that. We're here for the news of the morning here. Running a bit late because, well, I think that this cold is kicking my ass. I really do, because I get in, I go to bed, I sleep, and I just cannot get up to save my life. I wake up, I set the alarm for 5. It's usually 6:30 or 6:40 before I actually register as being awake, and then I have to go back and sort everything out from the night before. The good news on sorting everything out from the night before, though, is that yesterday was kind of a slow news day, so I got through it pretty quick. And we'll go over the new stuff. We'll actually probably get some of the old stuff today as well over here on Contemporary, so get set for that. This thing with the COVID thing is just, it's wild to me, but we've got a lot of finance here. I tend to, and I know that my friend Stephen Ignoramus tends to focus more on the culture, and the Porch Boys tend to focus more on the culture and the memes and everything else and things like that. I tend to focus more on finance because I do think that is going to be the big driver of the next election. I really do. It's the economy, stupid, and it's not doing well. No matter what Biden tries to tell us, it's not doing well. So we'll talk about that. Let's get the live chat up so I can see. And yeah, I did just go back and test my DLive. My DLive on my end is working. Like, I have nothing on the monitor. I have no idea why. Okay, now I have something on the monitor, but I tested it before, and yeah, it was still showing black screen, and I refreshed it after I hit the live button, and my title, or my opening card came up, and the music came up too. I had to go back and mute that right away. So I don't know what DLive's problem is. Probably it's because they're Turkish. That could be a problem. But hey, they let me get away with saying things that no other platform will let me get away with saying, so if I ever do get yeeted, that's probably going to be one of the places that I fall back on, mostly. So thank you guys for going on with that. Let's get started. Let's get into it, and let's talk about the news. Before we do, make sure you guys go back and listen to the aforementioned Porch Boys. They'll be back on later on today. Go check out the Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, and the R-Rated Conservative. Tweets by Brit, KTZed. KTZed having Stephen Ignoramus on, running a simulcast on both of their channels yesterday. Also check out PJ Patriot, the No Gimmicks podcast, and Mr. Behavior. We rated Mr. Behavior off the Twitch side last night, even though I went over and watched the Porch Boys after that, because hey, he deserves to have the extra view coming up off my computer, even if I am not hearing there. It helps boost him in the ratings. It helps boost people coming in to go and see him. So that's what we see off of that, and we're going to get started with finance for the morning. Looking into the Dow to start off with the day, the Dow spent the entire day up, still above the 30,000 line. It does seem like, and it may be artificial at this point, but it does seem like the goal is to keep it above the 30,000 line before November, because every time it drops back below, all of a sudden the futures are up, and look, and it stayed steady. Nobody bought or sold anything throughout the day. Everything just stayed steady. So I don't know. I think there is some honking going on with the markets, because this is, and I talk about this, I mean, the markets, the Bitcoin, they're not what the economy is doing, but they are a good short-term indicator of what the economy is going to do. The Dow is usually within a week, and the Bitcoin is within probably about the next 24 hours. When you look in at Bitcoin every day, because that is, as I mentioned, one of the more liquid ones, it usually takes a little bit more time to see what the Dow is going to do and for you to get your money and cash back in and out of the Dow. But it's still a good kind of weak indicator, week-long indicator, not weak indicator, like week-long indicator of where people think the economy is going to go, especially investors. So we sit back, we watch that, and I mean, everyone's retirements are tied to that, and again, I think a lot of this is inflated to make the economy look better than it was, and my going theory is that the BlackRocks and the Berkshire Hathaways and companies like that are getting some taxpayer money to say, hey, go buy these stocks and make this look really, really good. We want to say that the Dow is doing okay and plunking along. And if it wasn't for that, we'd be looking at 17,000 Dow again. Except steady this time, not a V-shaped recovery. So we'll see what happens with that. We will continue to watch that and check through that every day. The Bitcoin has been on a fairly narrow whipsaw throughout the day. It goes up, it comes down, it goes up a little bit more, it comes back down. It is up on the day at $35. If you have a single Bitcoin, you have made 35 whole dollars, bringing your total up to $19,582 US dollars and 50 US cents. Although most people don't really have a full Bitcoin. I'd like to have a full Bitcoin at one point. If you want to donate to me, I will get a donate link in the crypto, because hey, we're not using PayPal anymore. So Subscribestar, you guys can always go back and do that and go check that out if you want to support any more personal way. So we'll see what happens with that. Bring this out to the 5-day. It does look like there was a fairly steady climb throughout the day yesterday, bringing us back, and then tipping ourselves back over into the steady, somewhat growth, but not a lot of growth. So we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. Gas is creeping back up, but very slowly. There's nothing spiky about this. The Speedway out on the west side is at 380. That appears to be the high price in the Madison area. We've got a BP also in the 380 area. We've got 360s otherwise is the standard for the Madison area, with a couple 366s and 370s coming back around this. So that's what we see coming off of gas. Your gas prices may be different. We are using the Madison area as a benchmark because we can watch the rise and fall as we go, and also comparing the fact that this is a swing state. So our buddy Tony Evers is in trouble, and he's going to do anything that he can to hold on to power, because the teachers union is paying him to do anything that he can to hold on to power right now. And yes, that may include continuing to hold the gas prices down, even at a loss for Wisconsin Department of Revenue. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one from IBD, but all the way up to Barron's we'll be talking about, no, I guess all the way up to the Blaze we'll be talking about some finance stuff. But we'll keep some of the rest of them quick. Starting with Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones surges 550 points, but this key signal is missing. Netflix Tesla earnings on deck from Scott Latonin. Futures were mysteriously higher ahead of Tuesday's open after the Dow Industrial Average surged more than 550 points on Monday, honk honk. Netflix earnings are out late Tuesday, and Tesla earnings are due Wednesday. But first, Dow stocks, Goldman Sachs, and Johnson & Johnson will report early on Tuesday. On Monday, the Dow surged 1.9% and the S&P advanced 2.65%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq climbed 3.4%, and the small-cap Russell 2000 rose 3.2%. Among the ETFs, the Nasdaq tracker QQQ Trust moved up 3.3%, and the SPDR S&P 500 rallied 2.5%. Bank of America, Chuck Schwab, reported their quarterly results Monday. Bank of America jumped 6.1%, while Schwab sold off 2.25%. Wow, Bank of America? EV giant Tesla raced 7% higher, rebounding from Friday's big skid. Among the Dow stocks, Apple traded up 2.9%, and Microsoft climbed 3.9% in today's stock market. AutoZone, Cardinal Health, Molina Healthcare, and Vertex Pharmaceuticals, as well as Dow stocks Chevron, Merck are among the top stocks to watch. Keep in mind that the ongoing stock market correction is a time for investors to sit on the sidelines and build a watch list of top growth stocks. Cardinal and Vertex are IBD leaderboard stocks. Merck and Molina were featured in this week's Stocks in Your Buy Zone column, along with two other top stock ideas. On the futures, ahead of Tuesday's opening bell, Dow futures rose 1.6%, the S&P gained 1.9%, and the Nasdaq moved up 2.1% versus fair value. Honkity honk honk honk. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The 10-year yield is up 4.01%, closing 4%, above 4% for the second straight session. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices extended losses from Friday's tumble, edging lower on Monday. West Texas Intermediate traded below $86 a barrel, 4.01 without a GDP to back you up. I'm sorry. I don't know how you can buy a bond right now. If they're that desperate that they're going to throw 4.01 at you without GDP to actually back that number up. But hey, we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. Let's talk about recession. So we've got a few different economists telling us whether or not we're going to be in a recession next quarter or not, even though we've been in one for the entire year of 2022. From the Hill to start with, odds for recession in next 12 months now 63% in survey of economists from Zach Schoenfield. 63% of economists believe a recession will occur in the next year, marking the latest increase in such a prediction according to the Wall Street Journal's Economist Survey. 49% predicted a recession in the Wall Street Journal's July survey, and the latest poll marks the first time since July of 2020 that a majority said a recession would occur in the next year. And that is in spite of the fact that we've already had 2 consecutive quarters of GDP growth. And by the way, it's not looking really good for quarter 3 either. I could still see a 0.1 or a 0.2 growth, but I'm not seeing a 2, 3, 5, 7% growth coming out of our GDP. I am more inclined to say 0.3 to 0.5 shrinkage. And again, I don't think it's going to be a huge drop. I think that there's going to be a shrinkage, but it's going to be a tiny one. To a point where you could almost just say flat. The pollster surveyed the 66 economists the day before the Labor Department released new inflation data, showing the CPI, a weighted market based on household goods and services, rose 0.4% in September and 8.2% over the past 12 months, exceeding expectations. It was 8.3%, by the way. Just so you know. Stubborn inflation will increase the pressure on the Federal Reserve to keep increasing baseline interest rate charges, which would further cool off demand to ease price gains while increasing the risk of tipping the U.S. economy into a recession, which we are already in. And it also allows the U.S. government to continue to fire hose cash all around the globe. Wall Street Journal's survey found the economists, on average, predicted the midpoint of the federal funds rate range will reach 4.267% by the end of the calendar year, a higher estimate than past surveys. The economists, as recently as July, predicted the midpoint at the end of 2022 would reach just 3.294%. This prediction is just above the current range between 3.0 and 3.25 percentage points, which was set by the Federal Reserve last month after its third consecutive three-quarter point hike. The Central Bank's committee that oversees rate increases will meet again in the first few days of November before convening a final time in mid-December. Oh, that's funny. Right after midterm, or right before midterms, rather. After the latest rate hike announcement, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said he expected an uptick in unemployment as a result of increased borrowing costs, which makes it more expensive for businesses to expand and individuals to take on debt like a mortgage or a credit card. If we want to light the way to another period of very strong labor market, we have got to get inflation behind us, Powell said. I wish there was a painless way to do that. There isn't. I have an idea, Jerome Powell. Jerome, you need to walk into the Congress and put your fist on the table and say, "Stop spending money, you morons!" That's what you need to do. That would be the painless way to do it as well. The Labor Department's latest job report shows the U.S. added 263,000 jobs in September as the unemployment rate fell to 3.5%, a steady increase that has slowed from a torrid pace earlier in the year. Honk honk. The Biden admin, which repeatedly touts the recent jobs reports, has portrayed a more optimistic economic outlook. President Biden told Jake Tapper in an interview that aired last week that Americans should not prepare for a recession while acknowledging a slight downturn is possible. I am not going to give you financial advice because that would be against the law. And you could sue me if I was wrong. And I don't have the bonding to cover up if you sue me. But what I will tell you is this. Canned goods keep for a very long time. And even if there's not a recession, if tomorrow the economy snaps back into place and we're all saved and huzzah on the Democrats and we have 10% growth and champagne flies down from the heavens, you can still take all those canned goods and have a pretty cool meal. Fresh is always better, but, you can still use those after the fact. But I'm going to tell you this right now. If it hits the bottom, some of the stuff that you can buy for cheap right now, you're going to want if it does hit the bottom. I know. I've been there. I prayed to the Lord when this started looking really, really bleak and said, hey, if somebody's got to suffer in this downturn, don't let anybody that I care about suffer. Let me be the one to suffer, because I've done this before. I don't really want to do it again, but I have done it before. I know what I have to do, and I know how to do it. It sucks. I'd like to be rewarded and actually be able to get a big piece of property somewhere. But again, a lot of you guys don't have the same kind of practice that I had. I was literally at the very bottom. And I don't want to see that for any of you. So, grab some canned goods, grab some ramen, grab some rice, for just in case. And put it away somewhere. Put it in a tote underneath your bed, in your closet. Put some of it in the pantry. But someplace where you're just going to sit back and forget about it. This is not official financial advice. But I can say that you're going to want it if the bottom does drop out. So that's what we see coming off of that. And of course, none of what I just said applies to Quest because he's probably going to be the one who financially saves us all. Let's grab one more on the recession from Insider. The newest Nobel-winning economist lays out 2 reasons why the U.S. is really exposed to a financial crisis, in spite of the fact that we're in a recession right now. From Ben Wink. Forecasts of a 2023 recession are worsening, inflation is still historically high, and the labor market is softening. The last thing the U.S. needs right now is another financial crisis, but 2 trends leave the country exposed to such a catastrophe. Doug Diamond, one of the 3 economists to win the Nobel Memorial Peace Prize in Economic Sciences, on Monday told Insider. Diamond knows a thing or two about the financial system and its vulnerabilities. He and his colleague, Philip Dybvig, with whom he shared the Nobel Prize along with former Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke, wrote a hugely influential paper in 1983 that explained the role banks serve in the economy. That paper is older than I am. The 2 detailed how banks act as valuable intermediaries in taking the saver's deposit and offering long-term loans to businesses and other borrowers. Yet that balance can quickly unwind if the right backstops aren't in place. If trust in the financial system fades, an onslaught of savers can pull their cash at once and bankrupt the very banks that prop up the entire system, Diamond and Dybvig wrote. That's what happened during the financial crisis in 2007. The subprime mortgage meltdown tanked public trust in banks and kicked off the Great Recession as American spending plunged. Banks are in much better capital positions than they were before the Great Recession, Diamond, a professor of finance at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business, said, yet the coronavirus crisis and the following inflation spell have thrown the financial systems into a sea of uncertainty. Amid soaring inflation, the Fed's historically intense fight against rising prices, it might not take much for a distrust of the financial sector to grow. Financial crises are inherently unpredictable, and faster than usual rate increases could be enough to throw off the public's sense of security, Diamond said. It takes at least somewhat unexpected events to cause a financial crisis, or the type of run where there's enough loss of confidence and loss of net worth to get people rushing to the exits before others get there, he told Insider. The fear of fear itself, or self-fulfilling prophecy kind of run. So far, the Fed's avoided such a surprise. The central bank has previewed its rate decisions effectively in the weeks before the policy meetings, leading investors and economists to have at least fairly reliable forecast of how high interest rates will move. That security isn't a given, and recent events in the UK provide a prescient example of how unexpected policy can shock the public. After Liz Truss's tax proposal slammed the pound and government bonds, the Bank of England was forced to step in with limitless bond purchases to buoy the market. The move undermined the bank's efforts to cool inflation by pumping more cash into the struggling economy, and while some of the damage has since been mitigated, the episode has eroded trust in the UK financial sector, as evidenced by the weaker pound and the higher yields on government debt. With the pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine war, and the global slowdown creating huge uncertainties, the Fed isn't safe from a similar episode. Unexpected rate moves could be enough for investors to move their money around and sow some discord in the financial markets, Diamond said. I'm not even going to tell you what I would do at this point because that would be financial advice and I cannot give that to you. But I am a little bit wary of the banks right now. I really am. So that's what we see for that. Fortune, telling us top economist Mark Zandi says a recession isn't a sure thing, but urges everyone to keep one hand on the bunker door just to be safe. From Will Daniel. Economists, business leaders, and billionaire investors have warned that throughout the 2022 that a perfect storm or something worse is headed for the U.S. economy. With the Federal Reserve raising interest rates at the fastest pace since the early 80s to fight the persistent inflation, many of the most seasoned economic forecasters alive believe that it's just a matter of time before a recession hits, even though we've been in one for the entire year of 2022. And most Americans believe we're already in one. But Mark Zandi, Moody's Analytics chief economist, isn't that pessimistic. Despite the now rapidly cooling housing market, sinking stock market, and nearly 40-year high inflation, Zandi believes the U.S. wasn't in a recession in the first half of this year. Okay, what else do you call 2 quarters of economic decline? Oh, it's not a recession because the right person's in office. And that's literally what it boils down to. The Economist has admitted the chances of a recession are high and rising, but he told CNBC on Monday that 2 massive supply shocks, the pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, have disrupted the entire global economy, making forecasting business cycles a challenge. So this is probably the dude that's paid to go tell Biden that it's not his fault. I'm guessing, just by reading the subtext into this article. That's why there's so much confusion as to whether this is a recession. It just goes back to the fact that this is a very unique period where 2 massive supply shocks have come together and disrupted things globally. Zandi went on to say that although a recession isn't guaranteed, one could hit in the second half of next year for one simple reason: stubborn inflation. With the Fed's no-holds-barred attitude to do whatever it takes to get it down. He especially worries that core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, will remain above the Fed's 2% target rate. The only way to get rid of that persistent, stubborn inflation would be to push the economy into a recession, he said, and that means that the Fed just jacks up interest rates much more significantly. But if that's the scenario, and I think that's the most likely recession scenario, not the most likely scenario, it probably won't happen until the second half of 2023, in spite of the fact that we've had already 2 quarters of economic growth. So, this is probably the dude who runs back out and tells Biden, hey, Joe, it's not your fault. No, the whole world's in a recession. Just tell the people that. They'll believe you, we promise. 1% of your rate for a year with Inflation Buster. Speaking of inflation, that's the ad over there. You guys can probably tell what it is that I look up and talk about the most. Buying a piece of property. Because we get that kind of ad. I think we're getting into that point too, honestly. Some good news off of that. Some good news I can't talk about on air, but some good news off of that. Illegal teacher strike, huh? They updated since we've been live. We'll put a pin in that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, and the last one on the recession, and I've got just a couple more on the BlackRock thing. And then we'll actually go talk about the new COVID. Economists predict nearly 100% possibility of a recession by this time next year. So, and there's one thing that I did want to point out, and this is where I think that we're actually going to get a slight decline. Although, again, probably not as bad as, like, first quarter. And that's the fact that they're anticipating that there's going to be recessionary items that go through, especially with the Inflation Production Act. That's not going to really start to show the inflation that it's producing until about February of next year. And the student loans things too, by the way, which does look like that's possibly going to be going forward. That's also not going to come back and hit until next year. whatever inflation does come out of that. And the reason that I bring that up, the reason I talk about that, is the fact that after it is statistically impossible at this point. Republicans don't even have to win a single toss-up in the House. They can just take all their surefire, guaranteed House seats and walk away with the House. The Senate's going to be another story, and that could cause some more gridlock in D.C., which, I mean, I do like gridlock in D.C. I very much enjoy that. Which means that whoever the Speaker of the House is, please don't be McCarthy, please don't be McCarthy, please don't be McCarthy, is going to be the new punching bag for the mainstream media. And as soon as they come out and say, we're in a recession, it's, please don't be McCarthy, please don't be McCarthy's fault. It's the new Republican Speaker's fault. It's his fault. Biden is innocent. Which is, again, why I think they've been slow to come back and say that this, what we're in right now, is a recession, in spite of the fact that it ticks all of the indicators of a recession. They're lax to say it because they have nobody to blame but the people who are paying their bills. And a lot of that changes as soon as there's somebody new for them to punch around. From Chris Pandolfo. U.S. economists are predicting with near 100% certainty that the economy will enter a recession in the next 12 months, which is the last thing Democrats wanted to hear ahead of the midterm elections. An economic forecast by Bloomberg Economics Model, hey, that's Hilton's favorite magazine by his favorite politician, projects the probability of a recession by October 2023 to be 100%, an increase from the last report, which estimated the likelihood of a recession within the next 12 months to be 65%. The model uses 13 macroeconomic and financial indicators to predict the odds of hitting a recession. Bloomberg predicts with the chance of recession happening within the next 11 months to be 73%, while the 10-month probability is at 25%. Never mind the fact that we're already there. Bloomberg economists say the persistent inflation and expectation of continued rate hikes from the Federal Reserve are contributing to the risk of contraction. The U.S. economy technically entered a recession in July after the real gross domestic product decreased for 2 quarters in a row. The Bureau of Economic Analysis and GDP, the inflation-adjusted value of goods and services produced by the economy, decreased by 0.9 in the second quarter of 2022. A rule of thumb measure of the recession is whether GDP declines in 2 consecutive quarters. And again, if you missed it yesterday, here's Biden telling us that in spite of the fact of 2 contracting quarters in a row, and a third one that's not looking that good, here's what you're actually supposed to think as this dude munches on ice cream.
Concerned about just one more economic one. Are you concerned about the strength of the dollar right now?
I'm not concerned about the strength of the dollar. I'm concerned about the rest of the world. Does that make sense?
Can you explain that?
Yes. Our economy is strong as hell. The internals are. Inflation is worldwide. It's worse off everywhere else than it is in the United States. So the problem is the lack of economic growth, sound policy in other countries, not so much ours. And that's how it's worldwide inflation. It's consequential.
It's consequential, man. Yeah, the economy's just strong as hell, man. I don't know why I look over to this screen to look at my Twitter while I listen to a video play, because there's always something disturbing. And by the way, that's got a pin put in for tomorrow. Again. We'll do that tomorrow. You'll get a preview of that in the Discord, because I'm going to drop that in the Discord in the Clown World tab. But as far as us being in a recession, we're there. You know it. I know it. Bacteria with a long enough telescope on Mars know it at this point. By the way, a little side note on the ice cream thing. Has anybody noticed that there doesn't seem to be any concern about Biden eating ice cream every single day? When a Big Mac eaten by the former president was like the end of the world? I could go for a Big Mac. I don't know why. I've been starving all week this week. I don't know. I eat the exact same amount of food that I have before. It just seems to not go as far lately. I don't know why. Alright, let's talk about BlackRock. Get woke, go broke. BlackRock stock downgraded over risk from ESG investing. From Ben Ziesloft. BlackRock was downgraded by UBS and analyst Brennan Hawken last week over the asset management company's adherence to the environmental, social, and governance model, also known as ESG. As several conservative state officials continued to pull hundreds of millions from BlackRock and other asset managers, Hawkins slashed the target stock price from $700 to $585. According to a report from Barron's, shares for BlackRock fell 1% last Tuesday on the news. We are downgrading BLK to neutral based on the environmental pressure to earnings and risk from the ESG's positioning, Hawken remarked, citing the potential for further lost business, increasing regulatory scrutiny. Most recently, South Carolina State Treasurer Curtis Lovitz said that he would pull the state's remaining $200 million in BlackRock because of the company's leftist worldview, through which executives undermined their fiduciary responsibilities. BlackRock, which manages $8.5 trillion in clients' assets, has taken voting action on climate issues against dozens of its portfolio companies, according to Investment Stewardship reported. Louisiana also announced intentions earlier this month to divest from BlackRock until a total of $794 million is removed from the company. Weeks earlier, the state of Texas revealed BlackRock and 9 other firms had violated state law by refusing to deal with or terminating business activities with companies involved in the production and use of fossil fuels without an ordinary business purpose. BlackRock countered in a recent letter to state's attorneys general, insisting that the officials falsely portray ESG as a departure from the maximization of profits and asserting that entities which assume a forward-looking position with respect to climate risk and its implications for the energy transition will generate better long-term financial outcomes. At a recent panel event, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink and former President Bill Clinton discussed how ESG can aid government in accelerating a transition towards renewable energy. We're seeing evidence every day that climate risk is an investment risk, Fink claimed, noting the movement of crop production as a purported result of heat and droughts. People are waking up to that, and it's creating a tectonic shift. So, and that's interesting, and, well, honestly, that would be a big one for me. If I held stock in BlackRock, which I do not and will not, I would hold stock in Raytheon before BlackRock, which I actually do. If I held stock in BlackRock, I would be getting out of it right now too. As soon as I heard West Virginia, South Carolina, Louisiana come out and say, yeah, we don't want to do business with you anymore, so get your assets out of our state, I'd be like, yeah, no. I can find a better way to burn $20. What is BlackRock stock right now? BlackRock is at $569.25, and it is currently in the red. It's down 0.5% on the day. It was a little bit of a whipsaw yesterday. So, yeah, I wouldn't be in that right now. There's a better way to burn $565. And the last one we'll do on finance. I know, we did an extended one. Comes to us from The Blaze again. Biden tries to blame Republicans for inflation, but facts quickly block his narrative. From Chris Enlow. President Biden tried to pre-blame Republicans for future inflation over the weekend, but his attempt to reimagine reality was quickly refuted. In a tweet on Sunday, Biden claimed the Republican agenda includes exacerbating inflation. If Republicans and Congress get their way, prices will go up and inflation will get worse. It's that simple. Biden claimed without additional details, because he has none. As Democrats are struggling to make inroads with voters who care most about economic issues, Biden is abdicating all responsibility for the inflation crisis, because of course he is. For example, after the latest data from the BLS showed that inflation is not improving, but worsening, Biden launched a new attack on Republicans that claims their agenda is worse for the American economy. Republicans in Congress, the number one priority is repealing the Inflation Reduction Act. That's the exact wrong thing to do in this moment, Biden said on Thursday. If Republicans take control of Congress, everyday costs will go up, not down, man. Come on. Now, mind you, there's not going to be an opportunity to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act because it will get vetoed, and while their outlook looks really good for the House and looks fairly good for the Senate, not really good for the Senate, there is not going to be a veto-proof majority in either chamber. I know that better than anybody at this point. Biden also said Thursday, if Republicans win, inflation's going to get worse. It's that simple. As the House Republican caucus pointed out, inflation has skyrocketed under Biden's leadership, but not under Republicans. This is a lie. Biden and one-party Dem rule is responsible for Americans' inflation crisis, the House GOP said in a response to Biden's tweet. They have no plan to fix it. When Biden took office, inflation was at 1.4%. Today is at 8.2%. It has skyrocketed because of their out-of-control spending to fuel their radical agenda, the response added. Under former President Trump, the inflation rate remained relatively stable because Glenn Beck can't do anything but talk about Donald Trump, hovering around the Federal Reserve's benchmark rate of 2%. But after Biden signed his COVID pandemic relief bill into law in March 2021, inflation began increasing sharply and has remained high since. Economists believe that bill overheated the economy. Even the New York Times, a former newspaper, acknowledged on Sunday economists generally agree that the stimulus spending contributed to accelerating inflation, in a story detailing how Democrats on the campaign trail are not boasting about Biden's stimulus package. Yeah, that was all that they wanted to talk about once they came into Congress and on the campaign trail last time, but they don't want to go talk about it now, do they? So, and realistically, that is the reason that I cut up the first two stimulus checks. That's the reason for it right there, right then and there. Because I saw this coming and I didn't want to be responsible for it, and, well, it's the government, so they have to have a perfect balance sheet, so of course they went back out and sent it anyway. And reissued it. But all the way back, even when Trump was president, I looked at this, I looked at the Congress that they had, and the fact that this was out there, and I said, stop spending money. And I took a scissors and snip, 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 snip. Because you guys know that I'm not going to give the government my banking information. That's not a thing that I would do. So, that's what we have for that. Let's talk about COOF 2.0 from the Daily Mail. Boston University creates new pinkopox strain that has 80% kill rate, echoing dangerous experiments feared to have started the pandemic. Okay. Here is my first question. Why? Now, I'm sure that there's probably some noble reason out there that they went out and got the grant, that they went out and everybody said, oh yeah, no, we definitely want Boston University to study that. I'm sure that it's on paper listed as, oh, they're trying to make it more deadly so they can find a cure that'll take on the more deadly side of this. I'm almost positive that's part of the reason that they did this, but oh my God, why? And some of this does make me wonder, is depopulation actually the goal that they're going with here? And hear me out. I hate listening to a Tim Pool video not that long ago because he was talking about the euthanasia thing. And suicide, even doctor-assisted, is something that really, really, really grinds my gears. But I mean, think about what we have here. First off, we've got the pinko pox. We've got it seemingly an agenda that keeps driving us into a recession and starvation, making groceries cost way too much for even the average family to afford. I get nervous every time I go to the grocery store right now. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. Every time I walk into the Woodman's, like, oh man, how much is it going to be when I walk out of here for basic items without meat involved? Because I have plenty of that right now. From Caitlin Tilley, health reporter for DailyMail.com. U.S. researchers have developed a new lethal COVID strain in a laboratory, echoing the type of experiments many feared started the pandemic. The mutant variant, which is a hybrid of Ermagerd and the original Wuhan virus, killed 80% of mice infected with it at Boston University. When a similar group of rodents were exposed to the standard Ermagerd strain, however, they all survived and only experienced mild symptoms. The scientists also infected human cells with the hybrid variant and found it was 5 times more infectious than Ermagerd. This suggests the man-made virus might be the most contagious form yet. Why? Please explain this to me. It will no doubt surprise many Americans that such experiments continue to go on in the U.S. despite concerns. Similar studies may have led to the global pinko pox pandemic. Yeah, I'm a little surprised by this. The commie coup, and this is the official narrative, the commie coup first began spreading from a wet market in Wuhan. Wink. About 8 miles from a similar high-security virology laboratory that manipulated the bat coronaviruses. Yup. So-called gain-of-function research involved tinkering with viruses to make them more lethal or infectious, with the hopes of getting ahead of a future outbreak. Yep. Oh, no. We're totally making this because we want to see if we can cure it. According to the chart here, scientists removed a spike from the Ermagerd. They attached it to the original Wuhan strain. Mice infected with the hybrid. Virus killed 80% of rodents. Yeah, this looks amazing, doesn't it? This is an accident waiting to happen, I'm telling you. In the new research, which has not been peer-reviewed, a team of researchers from Boston and Florida extracted the Ermagerd spike protein, the unique structure that binds and invades human cells. It has also been present in the virus, but has become more evolved over time. Ermagerd has dozens of mutations on its spike protein that made it so infectious. Researchers attached Ermagerd's spike to the original wild-type strain that first emerged in Wuhan at the start of the pandemic. The researchers looked at how mice fared against the new hybrid strain compared to the original Ermagerd variant. Writing in the paper, they said in mice, while Ermagerd caused mild, non-fatal infection, Ermagerd S carrying virus inflicts severe disease with mortality rate of 80%. The researchers said it signaled, while the spike protein is responsible for infectivity, changes to other parts of its structure determine its deadliness. They have made a new Ermagerd, and they're totally not going to release it out into the wild for 2024. We're doomed, aren't we? We're all screwed, aren't we? And of course, now we also want to make sure that we stay in war forever. This right here tells me where the warmonger footing actually is. And that the people that I used to protest with against Bush are now all in on another proxy war. Because Russia man bad. From Insider, I believe, yes, from Insider, Putin's nuclear threats are pushing people like Trump and Elon Musk to press for a Ukraine peace deal. A nuclear expert warns that's dangerous. Yes, no, it's dangerous to go and push for peace. Better that we go send more and more people from the EU and the Ukraine out to their deaths at the hands of Raytheon, which will continue to pour money into the weapons and into the pockets of the politicians who are setting up this war. I really just want to get up out of my chair right now and go start banging my head on the wall. Maybe at one point I will bang my head on the wall hard enough and live on camera that it'll escape from this reality. Somebody go back into the multiverse and save Harambe. Seriously. From Charles R. Davis. An understandable desire to avoid a nuclear war could actually make the world more dangerous if it means rushing to implement a peace in Ukraine that serves Russian interests, an expert told Insider. Such a move, which some influential figures have called for, risks setting a precedent that atomic blackmail is the way to win wars and make territory troops can't otherwise hold. I mean, it's part of the reason that America has been able to hold its proxy wars for as long as it has. In the last round of Middle East and East Asian conflicts, Kosovo, I'm looking at you. A model that could be copycatted by even the weakest nuclear armed states and may only succeed at delaying another war. Pavel Podvig, an expert on Russia's nuclear doctrine and capabilities at the UN Institute for Disarmament Research, said in a phone interview from Geneva that such a deal, on terms deemed favorable to Moscow, in the wake of the battlefield losses and an explicit response to the Kremlin's nuclear brinkmanship, could well make the world much less peaceful. Can somebody get me an actual video clip of Putin saying that he wants to go and throw the bomb at everybody? Because all that I've heard is, anything, everything is on table. You bring me moose and squirrel. I've never heard the N-word. No, not that N-word. Stephen, settle down. The West supports Ukraine with weapons and financial and moral and political support. Yeah, make sure you go get that flag up in your Twitter bio. Moral support. And if anybody questions the Ukraine's actual motives, you make sure that you call that person a Putin puppet. Dehumanize that person. Giving that up and saying that, well, we're too afraid of nuclear threats, so we just want to make a deal that would certainly set a precedent that would not be very positive, Podfake said. If you yield to this nuclear threat once, then what would prevent Russia in the future or others to do the same thing again? Just giving in at this point, he continued, would actually be dangerous. Talk of nuclear Armageddon has grown to a fervor in recent weeks as Russian President Vladimir Putin, his military losing ground in what was originally intended to be a 72-hour regime change operation, has doubled down on existential threats to Ukraine and partner nations. If territorial integrity of country is threatened, we will certainly use all means at disposal to protect Russia and our people, Putin said in a speech last month before nominally expanding Russia's borders by illegally annexing swaths of the eastern Ukraine. This is not a bluff. Although experts and intelligence agencies have seen no signs that Russia is preparing to match its leader's rhetorical belligerence with a nuclear strike, the prospect of such an attack, however minuscule, is nonetheless a source of growing concerns, given the unpredictability of military conflict and speculation over the mental state of the man who started the war in Ukraine. Well, we know that his mental state is Swiss cheese, and he's just a steward U.S. candidate. Oh, I'm sorry, not that man who started the war in Ukraine. The other one. Some observers, in good or bad faith, have cited the possibility of the unthinkable as all the more reason to negotiate a ceasefire, and at times have criticized the U.S. administration they see as leading the world to the precipice of nuclear conflict with its steady stream of aid to the Ukraine. We demand an immediate negotiation of a peaceful end to the war with Ukraine, or we will end up in World War III. It'll be the worst. No more war. I don't want to. No more war here. And there'll be nothing left of our planet. Former President Trump said at a rally this month. Our beautiful, beautiful planet, where the climate is not changing. Okay, that's a Trump quote, Susan. Please don't ban me. Attacking the stupid people who don't understand the power of nuclear. The terms of such negotiations are typically left to the imagination. Ukraine has said it will never sign away territory currently occupied by Moscow after Russians annexed the Ukrainian land. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared that any peace talks were off the table, while the Kremlin has itself sabotaged previous negotiations with maximalist demands that the Ukraine must disarm and abandon ties with its European partners to become a de facto adjunct of Russia. The N-word is a wonderful word. Some say a fabulous word. Personally, my favorite word. And we're talking about nuclear. Okay. Not the other one, because it might take me up off the stage if I say the other one. So, that is Insider telling us that peace talks would be wrong. Doesn't that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside? From CNN. Student loan forgiveness applications now formally open, Biden says. From Megan Vasquez, Sam Fossum, and Betsy Klein. President Biden announced on Monday the formal launch of the federal application for Americans seeking student loan forgiveness, the latest phase in his plan that's expected to provide debt relief to as many as 43 million borrowers. Today I'm announcing millions of people, working and middle-class folks, can apply and get this relief, man. And it's simple, and now it's easy, Biden said in remarks from the White House alongside Miguel Cardona, This is a game changer, man, for millions of Americans. And it took an incredible amount of effort to get this website done in such a short time. Individuals seeking to apply for student debt relief can now fill out the form in English or Spanish at studentaid.gov. I'm sure the Spanish part is really going to set Horatius off. The form includes information on the debt relief, who qualifies for it, and how it works. It asks applicants for information including their full name, social security number, date of birth, phone number, and email address. Borrowers have until December 31st, 2023 to submit an application. Biden in August announced his decision to cancel up to $10,000 in student loan debt for individuals making less than $125,000 a year, or as much as $20,000 for eligible borrowers who were also Pell Grant recipients. Borrowers must have federally held student loans to qualify, in addition to federal direct loans used to pay for an undergraduate degree. Federal PLUS loans borrowed by graduate students and parents may also be eligible if the borrower meets the income requirements. The Biden admin has said that applicants who are more likely to exceed income cutoff will be required to submit additional information like a tax transcript, and while borrowers will not have to pay federal income tax on the student loan debt forgiveness, it's possible that some borrowers have to pay state income tax on the amount of debt forgiven. That's us over here in Wisconsin. Yes, we will have to pay that. The Department of Education has also said it already had income information for nearly 8 million borrowers, likely because of financial aid forms or previously submitted income-driven repayment plan applications. Those borrowers will automatically receive the debt relief if they meet the income requirement, unless they chose to opt out. The department has said it will email borrowers who will be considered for debt relief but don't need to apply. Yes, you're going to get on the government teat whether you like it or not. So, aren't you excited for that? Look, here's the thing. This is still a bluff, and I don't think that they have the means or the balls to go through with it. Because that money's not going to hit until after the midterms, which I believe, number one, will be an injunction in the court, and number two, I'm pretty sure that House Republicans already have a plan to come out and stop this, which is the point. So they can come out, the admin can say, oh shucks, man, no, I really tried. We wanted you to have student debt relief, but it's just those evil Republicans. They got into the Congress and they blocked it. So, no, from the bottom of my heart, I wanted this for you. But we don't have enough to go around. It's those evil Republicans. Alright, so this is an interesting one, and I have a few different videos that we'll scroll through on Twitter for this. And I said at the top of the show, I'll actually admit that I don't know if this is true or not. And none of the video evidence in either direction is actually compelling to me. Because I know how much audio editing, millions of dollars of NFL software can get for you. Especially when they're trying to keep themselves on NBC. But I also know that there is an agenda to go back and try to paint this president as worse than he actually is. And yes, I also understand the fact that there's also a growing movement of people who do not approve of this current president. This could literally go either way to me, and I wouldn't be surprised either way. But reading the official narrative, from The Hill, Jill Biden leads Eagles fight song during Sunday night game. From Judy Kurtz, Jill Biden is using her voice to raise cancer awareness and to root on her home team. Yeah, here's a better way to raise cancer awareness, especially if you're a dude. Leading the fight song at a Philadelphia Eagles game. The First Lady was seen belting out the words "To fly, Eagles, fly" alongside cancer patients and survivors on Sunday as the Eagles faced off against Dallas Cowboys in Philadelphia. The football showdown was dubbed in the NFL and American Cancer Society's crucial catch game aimed at promoting the early detection and risk of reduction. While some social media users said football fans at the stadium booed the First Lady when she appeared at the Jumbotron, Biden, who grew up in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, called it a special night for this Philly girl. Biden likely had several reasons to cheer at Sunday's game. The Eagles remained undefeated after scoring a 26-17 victory against the Cowboys. President Biden relaunched his Cancer Moonshot project back in January in an effort to bring together researchers and share data. The president's son, Beau, died of brain cancer in 2015. But what we have going on from here, from the New York Post, Jill Biden booed during Eagles-Cowboys showdown. From Victor Nava. There was no brotherly love for First Lady Biden from Philadelphia Eagles fans on Sunday night. Biden, who was raised just outside of Philly and doesn't hide her support for the city's pro teams, was greeted with boos as she took part in the coin toss prior to the matchup between the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. The First Lady was serving as honorary captain for the game and was also present to promote the Biden admin's Cancer Moonshot initiative. Jill received the traditional greeting from the Philly faithful as she took the field with cancer patients, survivors, and their families. The jeering did not go unnoticed on social media. Clay Harbor tweets, "Philly just booed Jill Biden. Bad. Fly, Eagles, fly." A stadium full of Eagles fans booed Jill Biden tonight. They must all be from the 5 surrounding counties. Here is one video. I don't have this video of it, so we'll listen to this. I haven't pre-listened to this. I have no idea if this is one of the boos.
The First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, here tonight and a moment ago leading the crowd in a rendition of Fly, Eagles, Fly.
Okay, so Sunday Night Football didn't put the boos in. I've got this feeling, too, with the people that commented on this that, and again, I don't watch NFL football anymore. Until Goodell apologizes for what he did with the BLM movement, I will not watch it. I will not tune in to a single NFL game. But with that being said, with what we see off of this and what we have for this actually, if this is confirmed to be true, I would consider going back to the NFL. I'm still not there yet, but I would consider if this is true. But let's look in at this here. So there are a few in here to talk about. So this is the first one. The allegation that they booed. Candela says, "Eagles crowd boos and chants. F Joe Biden." Now, and one of the reasons that I can believe this, number one, is the sentiment behind it, and number two, is this doesn't look to be an official NFL camera. This looks to be possibly a local coming out here and getting video for this for a local paper. I don't hear any of this coming out through the PA. Mike Keenan says, now the FBI will have to raid the homes of thousands of Eagles fans. This is the official NFL clip, which again, we also have to remember that the NFL has millions, if not maybe billions of dollars of editing software to make this into something else. Let's listen. Which, and there are other comments down here talking about the other way, saying, "Oh, there's no way. It's impossible for them to boo because anybody from Philadelphia, any true Philadelphia fan would just be singing 'Fly Eagles Fly.'" And yeah, the Amazon Post, who is a good follow, by the way, if you don't follow that guy already. Pay those sound techs. They managed to record over the chance of F. Joe Biden. And there's another clip of what we just watched. There's another clip up here from the crowds as well. I had it. I don't have it anymore, it doesn't look like. That's not there anymore. Oh yeah, there it is. Here's one from up in the stands while this is going on too. And via the change, that sounds like somebody messed with the audio, going back to talking about the original NFL clip, or the one, not the original NFL clip, but the one that they put out. I don't know. This could honestly go either way for me. I'm going to say right off the bat, this could go either way for me. What do you guys think? Let's see. Yeah, one of the rare times I'm going to go to the chat here. Helton says, "Poor doctor of letters, Jill pedo wife Biden. She's an arrogant, sick person. Randy would purposely not scroll through the channels that I didn't even accidentally end up on a channel with football on it." FJB, yep, you can sure hear it. The amount of people booing is crazy. That area voted for Biden too, honk honk. Must all be out-of-towners. Her pedo man and her have destroyed our economy. Randy says, "I'm going to throw them a bone and point out that their mics probably have ambient noise filters for the crowds at every game. My headphones can filter out 90 to 95 decibels of ambient noise at my work." Ron says, "Is Lamestream reporting it as a bunch of rowdy drunk fans were shouting FJB?" I don't know. Like I say, for that one, for this specific one, this could go either direction. I could see this as being another chant like that, or somebody edited that in, but I could also see the NFL editing it back out. I have no idea. That's why I turned this one to the chat. 1 in the chat if you think the NFL's version is real, and 2 in the chat if you think that the Candela version here is real. 1 for the NFL's edited version that they put out, and 2 for the one that we watched first. But we got to keep moving on while I take the votes. See, a lot of 2s up there. All right, Gavin Newsom into the news from Axios. California's pinko pox state of emergency to end early next year. From Rebecca Falconer. California's pinko pox state of emergency will end on February 28th, Gavin Newsom announced on Monday, unless, of course, the BU strain gets back out. Newsom declared the emergency in March of 2020 to redirect funds to more rapidly respond to the pandemic. But Republicans said his decision to keep the measure in place so long was an abuse of the governor's powers per the LA Times. Throughout the pandemic, brah, we've been guided by the science and the data, moving quickly and strategically to save lives. The state of emergency was an effective and necessary tool that we utilized to protect our state, and we wouldn't have gotten to this point without it, brah. With the operational preparedness that we've built up and measures that we'll continue to employ moving forward, California is ready to phase out this tool. Now, I'm sure that a lot of California is ready to phase out this tool too, but there's enough people in LA to make that not happen for quite a while. And a follow-up to this one from The Blaze, Newsom to end California's pinko pox state of emergency in February of 2023. From Alex Nitzberg, California's pinko pox state of emergency will conclude on February 28, 2023, according to a press release from Gavin Newsom's office. I don't want to give up that power just yet. While the threat of the virus is still real, our preparedness and collective work have helped to turn this once crisis, emergency, into a manageable situation. Dr. Mark Galey, the California HHS agency secretary, said, according to the release. Just got to hold on to that power a little bit longer. A follow-up to the Bubba Wallace story from yesterday. Bubba Wallace changes tune following backlash to crash, refuses to apologize to driver that he attacked. From Ryan Saavedra. Bubba Wallace changed his tune on Monday and after facing backlash over the last 36 hours for his role in a crash on Sunday and his subsequent decision to get out of his car and attack the other driver. The incident happened during Stage 2 of the South Point 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway when Wallace, who won Stage 1, was next to driver Kyle Larson when Larson attempted a 3-wide pass. Larson moved up the track and his car gave a slight tap to Wallace's car, causing Wallace to brush up against the wall. After brushing up against the wall, Wallace bounced into Larson's car and continued by tracking Larson's car down the track and slamming into the rear of his car, causing both to spin out. In a statement Monday, Wallace claimed that he intends to learn from this and seemingly apologized to everyone except Larson. I want to apologize for my actions on Sunday following the on-track incident with Kyle Larson and the number 5 car. My behavior doesn't align with core values that are shared by the 23XI Racing and our partners who have played a crucial role in my incredible journey to the top of this great sport. As far as I know, you're still not on the top of this great sport. I want to apologize to NASCAR and the fans, along with Chris Bell, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Toyota for putting them in a situation in the playoffs that they do not deserve. I compete with immense passion, and with passion at times comes frustration upon reflecting. I should have represented our partners and core team values better than I did by letting my frustrations follow me outside of the car. You live and learn, and I intend to learn from this. By the way, there's a pull rope in my garage, and I think somebody's trying to hang me. Wallace did not initially take any responsibility for his actions during a post-crash NBC interview and claimed that he did not intentionally slam into Larson's car, only saying that his steering was gone and that Larson just so happened to be there. It was just a piss-poor move on his execution, Wallace claimed. When asked about getting out of his vehicle and attacking Larson, Wallace responded that Larson knew what the message was that Wallace was trying to send. Yeah, it kind of sounds like somebody came out and said, Bubba, you're about to be fired. We don't need this crap. Alright, we are actually caught up on the news for yesterday, or today rather, so let's go in and look at some of the stuff that we have passed over yesterday. From CNN, Democrat senator in competitive Colorado race defends party on inflation. From Daniela Diaz, Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado on Sunday defended the party on the issue of inflation, arguing the U.S. is dealing with a global problem as his GOP rival sought to pin blame on incumbent senator for rising prices. In a pair of wide-ranging back-to-back interviews with CNN's Dana Bash on State of the Union, Bennett and his opponent, Joe O'Dea, sparred over a number of key issues in their race, with both candidates zeroing in on consumer prices. This is a global problem. Canada has the same inflation that we have. Every country in Europe has the same inflation we have. The UK does as well. India has as well, because we're facing broken global supply chains, Bennett said. The senator added that the benefits of the August 2022 Inflation Production Act cannot be counted yet because not all of them have kicked in, saying the elements of the Inflation Production Act aren't going to kick in for a while. The cap on drug prices for seniors and the requirement, finally, we overcame pharma, after we gave them billions of dollars in profit from the holy jab, to have the requirement that Medicare negotiate drug prices on behalf of the American people. O'Dea, a moderate who can distance himself from former President Trump, blamed rising costs on a sweeping $1.9 trillion pinko pox economic relief package Democrats passed last year, calling it reckless spending bill and noting his opponent's voting record on the package. This inflation has been caused by the $1.9 trillion reckless spending bill that got put in place by Michael Bennet. He cast the deciding vote back in March last year. It's caused record inflation, O'Dea told Bash. Now, as far as I'm going to say, I will push back on O'Dea as well. And say, yes, the $1.9 trillion reckless spending package probably did push the inflation into the point that it was going. But on top of that reckless spending bill, with the infrastructure bill, where you went back and fire-hosed almost $1 trillion of cash into the economy, and we're pushing up on $1 trillion of cash, printed and fire-hosed into the Ukraine, and another installment of fire-hosed cash with the Inflation Production Act, and another government program, and another handout to Ukraine, and another child tax credit handout, over and over again. No, I don't think that the $1.9 trillion package was the only thing that did it, but I think it was a key player. And this thing where we've overcome Big Pharma. We won. We beat Big Pharma. Okay, well, if you beat Big Pharma, let's see the invoice for the holy jab. That's all that I want to see. I do want to see Iraq documents. I want to see Afghanistan documents. I do want to see those. But right now, the only document that I want to see from the government is the invoice for the holy jab. It's free to you, man. It's free. Just go take it. Take the vaccine. Take it. I'm telling you to take it. I'm going to make it so you can't work unless you take it, man. Just take it. So, that we have that. For our New York friend, and anybody else that he invites to share the program with, from the New York Post, New York governor's race between Hochul and Zeldin now considered a toss-up, which cannot be good for the DNC. If you're in toss-up territory in the state that has New York City in it, you're in trouble. From John Levine, the race for governor is now a toss-up, according to RCP. We'll look at polls tomorrow, by the way. I'll write a note for myself, because I said we were going to do that once a week, and I think we missed it last week, honestly. The contest between Hochul and Long Island Rep. Lee Zeldin has been listed as lean Democrat, something of a jubilant Zeldin noted on Twitter on Saturday. We have just 24 days to go until we fire Kathy Hochul and save our state. It's not too late for Hochul to come out of hiding and do multiple debates with me across New York, starting immediately, Zeldin said. RCP's average of polls from September 30th to October 12th shows Hochul up by only 5.3%, with nearly 7% of voters undecided. It's a very competitive race, pollster Doug Shane said on Friday. Zeldin's comeback has been remarkable, with a poll as recent as August showing him down 24 points. And again, I remind you, if you are the governor as a Democrat in New York, in a toss-up race, in the state that has the city of New York in it, you did something wrong. And if he does manage to get into there, his plans. Lee Zeldin to declare emergency on day one in office if elected New York governor, as polls show race is a toss-up. From Daily Wire News, which unfortunately means more government. You can't win them all, I guess. From Daily Wire News. Lee Zeldin said during an interview this weekend that he will declare a state of emergency to combat crime on his first day in office, should he win next month's race for New York governor. The news comes as polling from last week shows that Zeldin has closed the gap on Kathy Hochul in recent weeks, to the race now being deemed by RCP as a toss-up. Zeldin made the remarks during a Fox News interview on Sunday with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures. And we can listen.
Let me ask you, Congressman, what your plans are should you win in your first 100 days. What are you going to do?
Listen, I want to do everything I possibly can in the first 100 minutes. I mean, I want to have a very active day one. I just announced a couple days ago that as soon as I am sworn into office, I'm going to be declaring a crime emergency here in the state of New York. I'm going to suspend New York's cashless bail laws and some other pro-criminal laws that have been passed, force the legislature to come to the table to negotiate an improvement, because we have to take back our streets. We need law-abiding New Yorkers back in control of New York streets instead of criminals. And there are people who are in charge right now, from Kathy Hochul to these Democrats controlling the state legislature, who feel like they haven't passed enough pro-criminal laws. So this is an action on day one. I've previously announced that my first action, my first day that I'm in office, is telling the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg that he's being removed for his refusal to enforce the law. But it doesn't stop there. We need to support our men and women in law enforcement. We need to make sure, whether it's cashless bail, less is more, raise the age, HALT Act, some of these other names of laws that have passed, which don't get as much attention, are resulting in people getting hurt, law-abiding New Yorkers getting hurt. So I'm pretty motivated to do everything in my power in the first 100 minutes to take back the state. And listen, there's going to be opportunities beyond that, but we're going to have a very aggressive day one so that New Yorkers know that we're wasting no time to restore the state to glory.
So, Zeldin's going to come in and make more government to fix the problem that more government caused in the first place. You win some, you lose some. from the Blaze. A little bit of a sad story. Inmate sentenced to 24 years for brutal murder of leader of international child porn ring in Michigan prison. From Paul Saka. An inmate was sentenced to 24 more years in prison after admitting to ruthlessly killing a fellow prisoner who was a convicted child predator. Adam Taylor Wright pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in the 2019 death of Christian Mayer at the Milan Correctional Facility in Milan, Michigan, on Wednesday. District Court Judge Paul D. Borman sentenced Wright to 24 years and 4 months for the brutal murder. Wright's sentence will run concurrently, consecutively, to the sentences of imprisonment he is serving for other crimes. On January 2nd, 2019, Wright and his co-inmates, Alex Albert Castro and Jason Dale Kishigo, killed fellow prisoner Mayer, according to court documents. Specifically, Wright and Kishigo repeatedly kicked and stomped Mayer in the head, and Wright prevented corrections officers from intervening. While Castro repeatedly stabbed Mayer, according to the Department of Justice. Wright also, along with his two co-defendants, then worked together to throw Mayer's body down a flight of stairs. Mayer died from multiple stab wounds, 28 in total, and blunt force trauma to the head. The murder case was investigated by FBI agents. Why? Does Michigan not have a state patrol? Court cases for the other two co-defendants are pending. Can we put a petition in to this district judge to actually give Wright 24 years off for doing this? For ridding the world of this? And this, by the way, is the kind of thing that we should be doing anyway, rather than doing death penalty or anything else like that. Gladiatorial combat. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the kitty diddlers are going to be the weak ones at the gladiatorial combat. There's a long way to go with that, but we are up on the clock right now, and we're going to see if we can't get through some of these. But yeah, this is pretty based in Wright, who was convicted of robbing banks in July of 2018. Mayer, a married father of two, was sentenced to prison for crimes committed when he was the reported leader of an international child porn ring. Mayer and his cohorts allegedly targeted vulnerable teenage girls on the internet, performed sex acts online. For 5 years, the 9 child sex abusers pretended to be teenage boys online to befriend young, lonely girls, according to persecutors. Yeah, this is kind of the kind of person that needed to be taken out of society. I do say that we should probably, give Wright 24 months off for this. But I guess we can't have it all. But hey, we got this dude out of society. The child porn ring reportedly exploited more than 100 teenage girls in the US and Canada, ages 10 to 17. 10. Age 10. Get this Wright dude a medal for taking this thing out of society. Even if he's a bank robber, this man is a hero. But we're probably not going to get that, are we? More crime and punishment from ABC News. Arizona woman gets 30 days for collecting 4 ballots. Yes, because ballot harvesting is against the law in Arizona. It's not here, and it should be. A Southwest Arizona woman who pleaded guilty to illegally collecting 4 early voting ballots in 2020 primary has been sentenced to 30 days. From Bob Christie. With the judge saying that he did not think she had accepted responsibility for her crime. The sentence for Guillermina Fuentes, a 66-year-old school board member and former mayor of the small border city of San Luis, caps a lengthy case that caught the eye of investigators the day of the August 2020 primary and eventually led to charges against Fuentes and another San Luis woman. Republicans who questioned the former President Trump's loss in Arizona and other battleground states seized on the case as evidence of widespread voter fraud, even though nothing bad happened. 80 million votes, 10 scoops of ice cream, most popular president in history, more votes than Barack Obama. Even though it came in the primary and is the sole case of ballot harvesting ever prosecuted in the state. 81 million votes, most popular president in history. Yuma County Superior Court Judge Roger Nelson told Fuentes that despite a parade of character witnesses and her lawyer's plea that she be spared from jail, she has not accepted responsibility. Well, I have to wonder how many more were off of this, even though there were actually no ballot harvesters in the general election because it was the freest and fairest election in history. 81 million votes, 10 scoops of ice cream, most popular president in history. From the Blaze, Elon. Elon is under federal investigation, court filing reveals. I'm sure he's under more than one. In a court filing released on Thursday, Twitter's attorneys alleged that Elon Musk is under federal investigation regarding his $44 billion deal with the social media platform. Twitter sued Musk shortly after he announced in July that he wanted to back out of purchasing the social media platform. Musk said that he was no longer interested in closing the deal because Twitter refused to disclose information about fake accounts on the social media site. Twitter's lawsuit was halted on October 6th by Delaware Judge Kathleen McCormick after Musk reversed his decision and said that he would like to go through with purchasing the platform. The judge ruled that Musk has until October 28th by 5 p.m. to close the deal. If the deal is not completed, by then the trial date will be set for November. That same day, Twitter attorneys submitted the court filing accusing Musk of being under investigation. According to Bloomberg, the Thursday filing read, Elon Musk is presently under investigation by federal authorities for his conduct in connection with the acquisition of Twitter. Yeah, that's probably closer to sour grapes at this point. It did not specify why Musk was being investigated or which federal organization was performing the investigation. Well, whichever one is being used as the propaganda arm of the DOJ. And as for why, well, sour grapes. From the Daily Wire, Supreme Court declines to hear case over whether unborn babies have constitutional rights. Because of course they do. From Brandon Dre, of course they would deny hearing that. The Supreme Court turned away a case on Tuesday that would determine if unborn children are entitled to have constitutional rights following the historic overturning of Roe v. Wade. In 2019, the Catholics for Life group and 2 pregnant women challenged a newly enacted Rhode Island law that codified abortion rights. However, according to Reuters, the Rhode Island Supreme Court ruled the plaintiffs lacked proper legal standing for the case. But after the justices overturned the Roe decision in June, the plaintiffs asked the Supreme Court to consider the case. The court should grant the writ to finally determine whether the prenatal life at any gestational age enjoys constitutional protection, considering the full and comprehensive history and tradition of our Constitution and laws supporting personhood for unborn human beings, the petitioners wrote. The court declined without comment. But see, you're not going to hear a lot of this on any mainstream news source because, well, the Supreme Court has to be evil Trump appointees that just want to chain women out to the kitchen and evil pro-life and everything else. They can't let a story like this get there because that might undermine the narrative. From the Blaze. Virginia Dem lawmaker wants parents to face criminal charges if they refuse to affirm a child's sexual orientation and gender identity. from Carlos Garcia. A Democratic Virginia state lawmaker wants to pass legislation that would make parents face criminal charges if they refuse to affirm their child's sexual orientation and gender identity. Delegate Elizabeth Guzman said that she will introduce the proposal in the next session of the Virginia legislature. The social worker said that the new law is meant to be a rebuke of Republican Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's issuance of new rules on transgender students in schools. The day that Governor Youngkin wanted to implement this policy, I immediately texted the policy lead of that committee and said that this is how we're going to push back, Guzman said to WJLA-TV. Guzman's bill would include refusal to accept gender and sexual identity in the definition of child abuse. If the child shares with those mandated reporters what they are going through, they're talking about not only physical or mental abuse. What the job of that mandated reporter is to inform CPS, Guzman explained. And that's how everybody gets involved, she added. There's also an investigation in place that's not only from a social worker, but there's also a police investigation before we make the decision that there's going to be a CPS charge. You know, I couldn't have said it better myself. The woman is a prime facie of evidence of why the government needs to be abolished, using the government to impose your beliefs on others. And yet, because of the way the Supreme Court decision was made, that's what people like Guzman believe that the Republican Supreme Court is doing. Using the government to impose its values on others. Quick hitter here. We gotta head out of here in just a minute, but we can get a couple of these done yet. I think we'll finish with this one here. Ban on guns with serial numbers removed is unconstitutional. U.S. judge. From Brendan Pearson. A federal judge in West Virginia has ruled that a federal ban on possessing a gun with its serial number removed is unconstitutional. The first such ruling since the U.S. Supreme Court dramatically expanded gun rights in June. District Judge Joseph Goodwin in Charleston on Wednesday found that the law was not consistent with the U.S. historical tradition of firearm regulation, the new standard laid out by the Supreme Court in its landmark ruling. The decision came in a criminal case charging a man, Randy Price, with illegally possessing a gun with a serial number removed that was found in his car. The judge dismissed that charge, though Price is still charged with illegally possessing the gun after being convicted of previous felonies. Price's lawyer, Lex Coleman, called the decision thoughtful, measured, and accurate. A spokesperson for the U.S. Office of Attorney, William Thompson in Charleston, which is prosecuting the case, said the office was reviewing and ruling and assessing options. The federal law in question prohibits anyone from transporting a gun with a serial number removed across state lines or from possessing a gun if it's ever been transported across state lines. Serial numbers were first required by the Federal Gun Control Act of 1968, unconstitutional, and are intended to prevent illegal gun sales and make it easier to solve crimes by allowing individual guns to be traced. Price argued the law is unconstitutional in the light of the Supreme Court's June 24th ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. That decision held that under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the government cannot restrict the right to possess firearms unless the restriction is consistent with historical tradition. Based. All right. And with that, we leave 4 behind for tomorrow. which I think is the lowest number of starting articles for the next day that we've had in a long time. We had 5 for Monday before I started going in there, but Monday was a busy day too. But we have 4 here, and a couple of these actually might cut out just because they've also fallen out of the news cycle by this point. But that's not what we're here for. We're here right now for Twitter trending because it is Tuesday. So let's get the trending tab over here into this screen and see what is trending, what Twitter thinks that we should be talking about today. We will skip Tuesday Thoughts, Tuesday Motivation, and things as such, and do the top 5 trends, not counting those ones, which means we will be doing 2 through 6 rather today. The number 2 trend, the NBA. Fans get excited for the 2022-2023 NBA regular season, which kicks off today. I don't know that I've ever sat down and watched an entire NBA game in my life. I don't get basketball. I like to play basketball. But it actually doesn't appeal to me. Watching it played. Football does appeal to me, watching it get played, but basketball doesn't. The NBA starts tonight. The NBA returns today. Is that Snoop? I think that's Snoop. The NBA is back on tonight. The NBA season starts today. How we all sleep knowing the NBA season is back tomorrow. So those of you who enjoy the NBA, take heart. It is time. Number 2 trend. Take note. With an Apple logo. Technology. The possibilities are endless. Take note. From Tim Cook of Apple. I have no idea what this means. Or what it is that Apple is intending to come back out and put out here. What I do know is that I don't really have any desire to own an Apple product, and I really haven't. And it's not like, oh, technology, I'm superior Galaxy Android technology, etc., like that. Look, Apple made the mistake all the way back in 2014, where they decided that I, who hates U2 with a passion, needed a U2 album downloaded on my phone. Not an offer, not a link that says, oh, well, you have the option to do this. We want you to have this for free. U2 wants to distribute this for free. Just click this link, and it's yours. No. It was, we're putting this in your phone whether you like it or not. Now listen to it, you bigot. So I have zero desire to ever own an Apple product ever again in my life. And I don't know what hashtag take note means. And by the way, I don't begrudge other people who like Apple products either. For that reason. Because it's not about, oh, my superior technology or anything like that. It's about, they tried to put an album on my phone and I didn't like it. It does look like this is some sort of drawing product. So we'll see what happens with that. Number 3 trend today. Well, number 4 trend, our number 3. Get Kicks listing. That is a tiny smartphone. I'm kind of curious as to what's here. Just this little teeny tiny smartphone. There was a meme going around a while back that was showing the evolution of cell phones through the years. I know on the meme they just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller through there. And then there was a point where they started doing full screen smartphones, and over the top there was when we realized we could watch porn on our phones, and they started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I thought that was kind of funny. At the time, I was actually kind of guilty of that too. I've kicked that habit since then, but I still thought that was funny. Alright, se você achar Cristiano o defensor para Cordam, I have no idea. Get kicks listing, no idea. I don't know what is trending with this. This appears to be foreign of some sort, though. Yeah, I haven't even touched on the Pakistan stuff with Biden either, by the way. Pakistan is a dangerous country. Yeah, let's not do that while we're in the middle of a two-front war. Other than that, no, I have no idea what's going on with Get Kicks listing. Most everything that's actually got some information in it is, why? Why would you do that? Seems to be in another language, so. Alright, NCAA inclusion. It's day one of the NCAA Diversity and Inclusion social media campaign. Today, some of our student athletes share who they are and what identities and experiences have shaped them. NCAA inclusion. It is day one of the NCAA Diversity and Inclusion social media campaign. Today, we want to highlight some of our student athletes and their involvement in organizations to help promote inclusion. Today, we highlight Aaron Ranganen, Olivia Bucott, and Mandy Brown. So this doesn't appear to be a racial thing like I thought it was going to be when we came into this, but this is showcases of new people in the NCAA. If your favorite school is in here, then you'll probably see somebody that you follow, know, or your kid's school is in here. You might even see that as well. So I don't have any kids, and I didn't go to an NCAA school. I went to a trade school. And the last one for the day, James Corden is trending. Restaurateur Keith McNally, 86, James Corden, banned the late night host from Balthazar. James Corden has been banned from a New York City restaurant after owner Keith McNally accused him of being extremely nasty to his staff on multiple occasions. He was the most abusive customer to my Balthazar servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago. My New Yorker person, is this a big thing? Is Balthazar a big thing? I've never heard of it before, so. Buffy in NYC, James Corden always seemed like an irritable, fake, gay, fat man. Well, I was wrong about gay, but he's definitely fake. I know people. People saying he's a hugely gifted comedian, but a tiny cretin of a man and most abusive customer at my Balthazar servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago. I don't often 86 a customer, so today I 86'd Corden. It did not make me laugh. Here are two examples of the funny man's treatment of my staff. He behaved similarly in my former restaurant, Cafe Luxembourg, a few years back. Manager's report number 1. In June, Corden was here on table 61, although this is diabolical. It happens very occasionally in all restaurants. After eating his main course, Corden showed the hair to Balthazar manager G, who was very apologetic. Corden was extremely nasty to G and said, "Get us another round of drinks this second, and also take care of all our drinks so far. This way, I write any nasty reviews and Yelp or anything like that." And there's no way to scroll down and see the second report. I don't even know who this dude is. He looks familiar. Like, I've seen his face in the news before, but I don't know. Apparently he's been from an airline too, Ryanair. But other than that, no, I have no idea. I'm actually going to put a pin in this, and we'll talk about this, I think, more tomorrow. We'll even grab it from the Washington Post. Because now I'm curious as to what the reports say and who this dude is. And also to archive something else from the Washington Post to take away some more of their ad clicks. But with that, I think we're done. I think we're out of here. Twitch.tv/Limmy says, "I can no longer support James Corden." Well, I never have, because I have no idea who the dude is. Here's report number 2. James Corden was at Balthazar with his wife on October 9th for brunch. He asked for a table outside. Brunch maitre d', Allie Walters, took the party to table 301. Mr. Corden's wife ordered the egg yolk omelet with Gruyere cheese and salad. A few minutes later, they received the food. James called the server, MK, and told her there was a bit of egg white mixed in with the egg yolk. MK informed her, the floor manager, G, the kitchen remade the dish, but unfortunately sent it with home fries instead of salad. That's when Corden began yelling like crazy to the server, "You can't do your job. You can't do your job. Maybe I should go to the kitchen and cook the omelet myself." MK was very apologetic and brought G over to the table. He returned the dish, and after that, everything was fine. He gave the promo champagne glasses to smooth things out. G said that Corden was pleasant to him but nasty to the server. MK was very shaken, but professional that she is, she continued to finish her shift. "There's egg white in my egg yolk." Yeah, that's a little bit above and beyond the pale. There's a place in Madison that I'd wanted to try when I lived up in that direction, and my ex-girlfriend actually brought me out there for the first time, a little bit out on the west side. And I'm not going to name names, obviously. It's a franchise place, so they have locations all over the place. I didn't know that. That's the first time I'd ever seen that particular restaurant. It was kind of hipstery. I didn't really care for it that much. Their oatmeal and their omelet were good because, for whatever reason, I eat oatmeal every Sunday morning. I don't know why. So their oatmeal and their omelet were decent, passable. But my ex at the time, well, my girlfriend at the time, she wasn't my ex yet. She still liked me at that point. Ordered French toast. And got a waffle. So then when they took it back and went to go and get her French toast, the server came up and said, "Yeah, I'm going to go back and check on your waffle in just a minute." They did bring French toast the second time. But just for whatever reason, that waffle was stuck in that poor server's head. And we didn't make a scene like that. We laughed about it. She bought me a waffle iron, which I actually still have. I still use from time to time when I'm having a cheat day from keto. And when I opened it up that Christmas, she said, "Okay, now I expect you to make me French toast," which I don't know if she realized that or not, but French toast on the waffle iron is absolutely delicious. It's phenomenal. And if you haven't tried it that way, try it. Alright. Yeah, it's an OCD thing, Banning. Just I have to have it on Sundays. Alright. We're done. We're out of here. trim. It's getting out of control. For whatever reason, when my beard gets long, it grows sideways, especially in the sideburns. I don't know why. Oh, that's right. I restarted yesterday, so I don't have outro music up. All right. So with that, we're done. We're out of here for the day. I learned who James Corden was. It's one of the things from me not watching network television, apparently. But we're done. We're out of here for the day. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted with throughout the day. Everybody who came and made everything lively. And thanks for the vote on whether or not we thought that the thing with Joe Biden was real. I still have questions. I'm not sure. But I can see various reasons for doing so either direction. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Definitely looking forward to seeing more of that. More of you guys around here with more chat that goes along with that as well. Come back in here. Join me 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.